Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys for Saturday, February the 10th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. It's a two-man operation on the show today. Dana Lane and I, just the two of us. We will break down games if we try. We will. And we'll do it, as always, as good as we can on this NHL Ice Guys show. Andrew's away coaching a volleyball tournament. Alex, the sickness demons have gotten hold of him once again. So unfortunately, just Dana Lane and myself on the show today, but we're still excited to break down this Saturday card, and we'll get right into it and start right at the top with the LA Kings taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. West versus East matchup here. Tampa Bay laying minus 220 at home. Total 5.5 to the under in this game, about minus 115 with the total there. I don't have much on this game. I mean, LA off a nice road win last night against the Florida Panthers by a score of 3-1. Get the road trip going on the right. Get it going on the right start here for the LA Kings now as they take on Tampa Bay, who took care of business after a bad performance. We mentioned that on Tuesday against Edmonton. On the Thursday show, we said when they played Vancouver, that might be a team not feeling very good, very upset about the way they played in Edmonton. They might show it and take out some of those frustrations on the Vancouver Canucks, and they certainly did. A 5-2 victory for Tampa Bay in that game, which was good for everybody, I think, on the Ice Guys show, because we had some over opinion in that game. We had some puck line Tampa Bay opinion in that game, so that game worked out very well for us the other night. You know, this one, it's not as easy to go puck line with Tampa Bay, because the LA Kings on the defensive side, we know they're stingy. That's their strength. It's trying to keep the games lower scoring, keep the games tight, and try to win games in that, just like they did last night against Florida. Perfect type of LA King performance to a T. You know, get the good goaltending from John Quick, be good defensively, and just score enough to get the job done. And that's exactly the formula that worked to perfection for them in that victory against Florida. Not going to be as easy here against Tampa Bay. We know, especially at home, this Tampa Bay team now very, very proficient. This has been a team that at home has averaged, nearly 4 goals per game. So it won't be easy here for the LA Kings, no question about that. Earlier this season, these teams did play back in November 9th, Tampa with the 5-2 victory against the LA Kings. And Tampa Bay, for the most part, has done a good job in this series. They've won 4 of the last 5. So, for me, it's tough, this game. I'm not going to make a case to go against Tampa Bay at home. I just think they play too well there at the Amalie Arena. LA back-to-back situation, so you're going to want to keep in mind who's starting in net for them in this game tonight. Total, again, it's very tough to go under Tampa Bay at home, but it's very tough to bet LA over at times. So totals-wise, you got some conflict there, at least for me. So it's a game I'll be staying away from, but interesting one to see how it plays out tonight between the Kings and the Lightning. Nashville, Montreal, 53-54 on the rotation. We've got Nashville laying $1.45 on the road. Total 5.5, shaded to the under, minus 120. And here's Nashville off back-to-back losses, believe it or not, against Toronto and Ottawa. And they didn't necessarily play poorly in either game. Good enough to win, but they end up losing in the extra time portion of both of those games. Against Toronto, they lose in a shootout. Ottawa, they lose in overtime. So Nashville looking to bounce back here tonight against this Montreal team. And you know what I always say, oftentimes there's certain teams that can cure whatever ails you, and right now Montreal could be that team for the Nashville Predators to get back on track. PK Subban back in Montreal, of course, former Canadian. He'll be fired up. He'll be stoked to beat his old team. He was visiting the hospital. They have a wing in a hospital named after PK Subban in Montreal. Him and his Nashville Predator teammates were visiting that place yesterday and just doing some, goodwill work in the area. So really nice gesture from PK Subban, who's still, he's got a piece of him still in Montreal, even though he's been with Nashville now in his second season there. But he's going to have no qualms about going in there and keeping the misery going, I think, for this Montreal Canadiens team. And yeah, we know how bad it's been for them. Obviously, goal scoring has been an issue. We know defensively this season, this is not the core of blue liners that are A, experienced top to bottom, and B, playing as well in their own zone. And as a result, you're not getting as good goaltending from Carey Price. Some of it may be Carey Price related, that maybe he's not on top of his game night to night as well as he has in the past, but he's got a very, very skeleton crew as far as I'm concerned in terms of the blue liners patrolling that defense for the Montreal Canadiens in front of them. So I think that is a big part of it. So at least for me in this game, I've got no problem going ahead with -140 on the Nashville Predators. I think they get well in this game. Don't love the price by any stretch of the imagination. Road chalk at -140 is not exactly a wheelhouse type of bet for me, but I'll make an exception here because I think Nashville, after 2 tough losses in a row, they'll have that focus, they'll have that intensity, and let's be quite frank here. They are a cup contender. Montreal might not even be a playoff team, probably won't be a playoff team. So there's a wide gap between these two teams. I've got no problem with Nashville here, -140. That'll be a play for me tonight. Dana Lane's also involved with the Preds and Habs on tonight's card. Dana, what do you see here in Montreal? Can Nashville get bounce back against a team that a lot of teams have been able to use as bounce back fodder for most of the season?
Well, first of all, Ian, before I get into this game, I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm attempting to grow, a little bit of a little shadow here.
Playoff beard, yeah.
Well, I'm just kind of wondered. I thought, for the Golden Knights, it's certainly going to be in the Stanley Cup final. I thought maybe I'd just start growing the beard right now and see. I was inspired the other night when I saw Brett Burns on the ice, and I thought I can do that as well. Just noticing a little white down here. I'm not liking that, but yeah, I'm going with this look. We got a lot.
Well, we got a ways to catch up to Brent Burns. Brent Burns is the Bushman, I like to call him. He looks like the Burns on the ice, and I thought I can do that as
well. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, as far as this game is concerned, listen, I've said this a million times about the Montreal Canadiens. When PK Subban left, so did their guts, so did their soul out of that Montreal Canadian team. And look, the Molsons can do whatever they want, but here's the thing. Yeah, I understand that when you have an individual player that probably is that overshadows the team aspect, that probably is not what you're looking for. But PK, he provided just a spark on a nightly basis that just is not there anymore. This line in this game makes me a little bit worried, but I've known, like I've said before on this show, I don't get too. I expected Nashville to be in the $1.60 range, $1.50 range, a little bit lower than I thought, but once again, these bookmakers, they don't watch hockey, so I'm not going crazy because I'm not getting a number. I'm thinking they're trying to get you to take one side over the other. I don't think anybody's trying to get you to take Montreal, but we do know this. PK Subban has played fantastic as of late. He's going to go back to the Bell Center where he certainly wants to prove a point. We said this about, Marc-Andre Fleury the other night. Yeah, it was nice getting the victory against the Penguins at T-Mobile Arena, but there's always something special about going and sticking it to your old team in their own barn, and I think we're going to definitely see that tonight. As far as for the Nashville decor, they're starting to do what they did last year, getting a lot of production from the blue line. Subban is a point-a-game player in his last 10 games, and Yossi and Ryan Ellis have combined for 3 goals, 8 assists over their last 10. So Nashville's starting to round into form what they like to do as a team, get a lot of pucks to the net, create opportunities, being very mobile on the blue line, not stationary like a lot of teams are, trying to find those lanes to the net. Like you said, Ian, I don't know about Carey Price. I give him a lot of credit, and I know he loves Montreal, and I know he wants to stay there. But honestly, Ian, if I'm Carey Price, I'm looking at what's going on in Montreal, and I can't feel good about the future of this team. This is why, we talk about John Tavares, and yeah, you want to stay in New York for sure, but I'm not sure if top to bottom he's looking at this team and saying, well, we're definitely going to be a cup contender in 8 years if that's the deal that he decides to sign. And I know 8 years is a long time and a lot can happen there, but he's given a lot of his time to New York, and it's really still a circus there. And he has no idea what the future holds with him and the Islanders, or what the Islanders even hold with the city. I know they're going to split up games next year, but simply put, in this game, Montreal just cannot come close to beating Nashville. If Nashville loses this game, or matching them talent-wise, if Nashville loses this game tonight, it's simply because they didn't come ready to play. You can count on Montreal not playing well against the Central Division. They're 10-26 in their last 36 against the Central. And for I simply can't bet a team that gets one goal out of your top two lines in their last 5 games. So, if you got a something else, more information that makes me think that Montreal is the better of the two teams and has a better chance tonight, I'd love to hear it, because there is nothing about the vibe coming out of Montreal, their recent play, their inability to score goals, not knowing where Carey Price is mentally. There's nothing saying that Montreal's the side in this one.
All right, there we go. Nashville for everybody on the show. Myself, for Dana. The chat loves Nashville. Everybody talking about Nashville in the chat as well. So, well, sometimes that's a scary thing, but I'm telling you what, Montreal, I don't trust them to beat a quality team. And you talked about, okay, what's their one way of losing this game? Maybe they're not focused. I think the back-to-back losses takes care of that. I think you will get that focus from Nashville tonight. The teams that are good, they don't like losing 2 in a row. 2 in a row, let alone 3 in a row. So it's a situation where I think you're going to get Nashville coming after it hard tonight, looking to bounce back, get the win, and certainly if they play their A game, it's going to be too much for Montreal. Montreal cannot match Nashville if they bring their best game to the ice tonight, and I expect them to do that. So Nashville minus 140 tonight for Dana and myself in that game between the Preds and the Canadiens. New Jersey, Columbus, 55-56, no line yet on this game. Columbus, a tough loss for them. They were talking about trying to get back at Washington for that last-second buzzer-beater loss that they suffered in Columbus earlier in the week to Washington, 3-2. Nick Backstrom beats the horn against them in the final seconds of that game on Tuesday when they played in Columbus. They had the rematch last night in Washington. It ends no better for the sputtering Columbus Blue Jackets, who've now lost 5 straight. They lose 4-2 to the Capitals last night in Washington. Washington's power play, which has been very, very good lately, got on the score sheet once again. And now the Jackets, who are suddenly struggling with their confidence. John Tortorella is trying to stay positive. This is not the old John Tortorella where he's losing his mind and he's ranting and raving. He's yelling left and right, calling out players left and right. He's staying calm. He says, it's coming. Our game is getting there. Our game is almost where we want it to be. So he's trying to keep the now level-headed, calm, newer, and I think he's thinking finer, John Tortorella now, trying to keep things calm now, despite Columbus' current struggles. And we'll see if they can snap out of it tonight now against the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey, up and down team. They really are. No denying that. They're coming off a home loss to the Calgary Flames on Thursday by a score of 3-2. Again, a team that it seems like power play-wise, they're capable of striking, but 5-on-5, their offense has sort of dipped a little bit recently. So we'll see if the Columbus Blue Jackets can bounce back. They had Bobrovsky in net last night, so Joonas Korpisalo, I would think, is likely going to be tabbed as the starting goaltender tonight for the Jackets when they take on this New Jersey team. For me in this game, can't back Columbus with them struggling. You got to show me you can win when a team's in a funk like this before I can back you. On the flip side, New Jersey going on the road here, we'll see. We'll see what the price is, see what the goaltending matchups. It would be Devils or pass for me, but we'll have to see what kind of price we get. We'll see who the confirmed starters are in, because the one thing I've got a concern with for New Jersey is since Corey Schneider got hurt, Keith Kincaid's not exactly gotten the job done. He's had a tough time of it in between the pipes. You might even see Ken Appleby in between the pipes tonight for New Jersey. He did get a start earlier this season for the Devils, so we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening here for New Jersey in net. And where they go in terms of their starting goaltender tonight. So again, Columbus, until they win, I'd really have no interest in backing them. But for New Jersey, we'll have to wait and see what their goaltending situation is, because that's been a part of their difficulties, particularly this week. Keith Kincaid's really started to sputter just a little bit with this starting assignment on a nightly basis. We've got Buffalo-Boston, 57-58 on the rotation. This is a whopper of a price on the red-hot Boston Bruins, as you would expect. Boston laying minus 280 at home against the worst team in the Eastern Conference, the Buffalo Sabres, in this game. 5.5 the total, shaded to the under, minus 115 in this game. what more can you say about the Boston Bruins? I mean, obviously their last game was against New York, that Wednesday night rivalry night game on NBC Sports Network. I understand the Rangers are really a dumpster fire right now, although they did find a way to rally last night against maybe a little bit of a tired, jet-lagged Calgary team, 4-3. Give them credit for that, but I think Calgary was in a tough spot there more than the Rangers. That was a sign of them getting back on track. But nevertheless, Boston absolutely pastes the New York Rangers in their last game, dominates them, but does a tap dance all over them, as Pierre Maguire would say. Absolutely incredible dominance, really, by the Boston Bruins, and this just continues a great stretch of hockey for this team. You know, the great win last weekend against Toronto. We talked about that. You know, a good Leaf team, and really Boston was clearly the best team on the ice that night. Toronto was the second best team. I mean, they really kept Toronto to the outside, kept the scoring chances down, really shut down a lot of the big offensive weapons that the Leafs can throw at you in that game. This has just been part of Boston's terrific 2 months that they've had. This has been a good solid month and a half to 2 month stretch now that the Boston Bruins have, that clearly is letting the hockey world know that in the Eastern Conference, which, Tampa Bay's the favorite, they should be the favorite, but if you're talking about that next swatch of teams that could challenge Tampa Bay in the East, you got to put Boston there. You absolutely have to put Boston there right now with the way they're playing, with the way Tuukka Rask has absolutely been spectacular in net, and now things are even getting better. You got a team that's even healthier now. We've got David Backes staying healthy finally. We got Brad Marchand back from his suspension. We have Charlie McAvoy, the young, very promising defenseman, back in the lineup now for this Bruins team. Lot to like, and obviously they are expected to take care of business here tonight against the Buffalo Sabres based on this price. Probably a game I'm not involved with. Again, Boston just continues to suffocate you at the defensive end of the ice. So can Buffalo dent the scoreboard? Well, we'll see. It's going to be tough for them to do that, the way Boston is clamping down right now on opposing teams. Dana Lane's got an opinion on Sabres and Bruins here tonight on the card. Dana, what do you see about with this Boston team going into tonight? Is it a possible letdown that they're playing such a poor Buffalo Sabres team? But that's really the only situation I can envision them not getting the job done tonight, as this has been an impressive team for an extended period of time.
Well, I mean, Ian, here's the thing about the Bruins. I mean, I wrote an article early before the season that said, this team is going to go as far as Tuukka Rask can take them. And, I give Tuukka a lot of credit because, this is a guy that, even going back to the Tim Thomas days, could have really just fell off the wagon and said, I want out of Boston. I gained the starting job from Tim Thomas. I lost the starting job to Tim Thomas. And, he's gone back and forth quite a bit. And, and then even in past seasons, of course, last year and this year as well, there was a lot of talk about, is Tuukka Rask going to be the goaltender that can then actually lead the Boston Bruins deep into the playoffs? And thank goodness for him is, up until this year, they really had no bona fide backup. I mean, Zane McIntyre came up and Malcolm Subban came up, and now Hudobin was with them last year as well, but certainly did not play as well as he has this season. So there was nobody really there to challenge Tuukka, and he was allowed to work through his issues. And of course, the team in front of him wasn't very good. They had all kinds of defensive issues, like we remember last year headed into the playoffs against Ottawa. In fact, Charlie McAvoy basically went from college to the National Hockey League, and I never loved that combination of Chara and Carlo on the back end. And when McAvoy came, I thought that was a much better combination with him and Chara. So, defensively, they're playing extremely well. I mean, how underrated is Zdeno Chara? I mean, you hear people talk about the best defenseman in the National Hockey League, and his name never, ever comes up. But yet, you look at his numbers, you look at the way he plays, you look at his control of his side of the ice, and his name should absolutely come up in that conversation. And I think it's I've said it before on the show. I think the best thing that ever happened to him was McAvoy gets on the ice, because here's a kid that's a little bit more mobile, maybe not as, obviously not as experienced, but I think he's really pushed Chara to up his game a little bit and not just disappear into the abyss. I think they're real good for each other, and obviously that's helped Tuukka Rask as well. And, when you talk about the Bruins, that top line of Pastrnak and Marchand and Bergeron, show me a better top line line in hockey. I mean, they're certainly, if they're not the best, they're certainly in the top 3 in the league as far as production from that top line. And then, if you go up and down their lineup, DeBrusk and Krejci and Spooner on that second line, they've produced 11 points in their last 5 games. And then you go down to Heinen and, as you mentioned, Backus and Nash. I mean, guys, again, Backus is kind of the name on that line, and it's good to have him back in the lineup because it gives the Bruins stability, gives them stability in their depth. They get them, a name guy that has some experience deep in their lineup. But even those guys have produced 8 points in their last 5 games. So the current form for the Bruins throughout their lineup is absolutely fantastic. You could go down to Schaller and Corrali and Zarnik, and they're contributing as well. So when you have 4 lines, and especially that 4th line, it really is not really out there to contribute. Maybe they can chip some pucks in the net or get some assists, but when they're really not out there to produce offensively, they're just getting their 10, 11 minutes a night, and you're still getting production out of them. I mean, that really makes Boston dangerous. Now, the flip side of this is, what are we going to get out of the Buffalo Sabres? And I'm talking about from a total standpoint. Again, you never know with Buffalo. Yes, statistically, they're horrific. They're even bad on the power play this year with, last year, no matter how bad they always were, they were the top. I think they were the top power play in the league last year, and you can't even rely on that this year. But there's always something in the back of your head that says, Jack Eichel can go off for a 3-point night. So can we get 1 or 2 goals out of Buffalo? Yeah, I think that's fair, but I think the Bruins could get really close to this total on their own. I'm not surprised it's 5.5. I am kind of surprised that it's not shaded to the over, considering the firepower around the Bruins. There's just not a lot of respect for the Buffalo Sabres, but this is a Bruins team that brings in the 4th best offense in the league, and they're playing the 4th worst defense in the league. So it goes to figure that the Bruins will put up some goals tonight. And again, it's the same situation as with the Nashville Predators. The only way that they don't come and score 4 to 5 goals tonight is if they just, if they get up 2 or 3 goals and they're protecting the lead. That's the only thing that's the only thing you have to watch out for. But the best thing that could happen to an over wager tonight is for Buffalo to get on top early. And so that would, keep Boston engaged in the game and get our over bet there. So we're getting even money on the 5.5. I absolutely love this play. I just have to make sure that the Buffalo Sabres can contribute. So we're going over 5.5 plus even money, or a little bit plus $1.01 in some places.
All right, and over 5.5 for Dana in Buffalo and Boston. We'll see if the last game did go over, because that was against the Rangers, and the Rangers, their defensive play has just been absolutely horrendous. So that could be something. I could see a 6-1 score in this. I like the Boston team total over. I think that's definitely something you want to consider looking at here in this game. If you're worried that Buffalo may not do a whole lot, then you've got that option available to you. Buffalo, to me, the key for them tonight, if they're going to hit the score sheet, power play for the Buffalo Sabres has to come through for them. It absolutely must come through for them, because the majority of their goals have been on the power play lately. Their 5-on-5 has not been anything to write home about, but their power play has contributed. Their power play has actually been very good lately, the Buffalo Sabres. They've scored at least 1 power play goal now in 7 of their last 8 games. They had 1 game there against Edmonton where they scored 3 power play goals. So that Buffalo power play is clicking right now. Bruins have allowed 1 power play goal 2 of their last 3 games. So there is an opening there for Buffalo, maybe with the man advantage to strike, considering how good they've been on the power play. They're going to have to definitely make something happen on the power play, though, because their 5-on-5 offensive play certainly has been a little bit spotty, not only lately, but the entire season. But Buffalo's gone over the total 2 straight. Anaheim and the New York Islanders in their last 2 games. We'll see if that can continue here tonight as they take on the Boston Bruins. Personally, I like that Boston team total. Bergeron's been amazing. I mean, Patrice Bergeron has scored in 3 of the 4 games this month for the Boston Bruins. It seems like every time I've got my score app, it's a phenomenal app. For live score updates, I see Boston goal P. Bergeron, Boston goal P. Bergeron, Boston goal P. Bergeron. And I see that over and over again. I've seen it repeated now in like the last 1 or 2 weeks. He seems to be scoring almost every game. Obviously, the glue on that top line. That defense, you talked about Chara. That we've got to. I actually want to talk about Chara just for a second. Why is he still a capable, competent NHL defenseman at this stage of his career? It's simple. Even though he's age, everybody says he's a little slower of foot. Okay, he's not blazing speed. He never has been.
Never has been. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. But what keeps him in the right position more often than not, and at least a guy that can still get the job done, the long reach. We know that with the stick position, body position, always good. What can keep him still as a good NHL defenseman, even at his age, at this stage of his career? Simple. It's his training regimen. If you know anything about Zdeno Chara's offseason workout routine and training regimen, it's insane what he does. It is absolutely like he just puts himself through the ringer. You wonder why him, and you wonder why a guy too like Mick Jagger, lead singer of the Rolling Stones, why these guys are in good shape still. Mick Jagger's like jogging for 8 hours a day. No joke. I read this. Like he goes on these crazy exercise routines, jogging for multiple hours every single day. So you wonder why a guy like Mick Jagger's got all the energy in the world, energy to burn, to just dance around on the stage and just go nuts for 2-hour sets. That's why he trains his ass off. So does Zdeno Chara. Zdeno Chara is, in terms of his physical, keeping a good track of his body, keeping good care of it. He does that year round. He gets himself properly in the right state of mind physically prior to the season to be ready, to be as good as someone can be at his age. It's sort of like what Tom Brady's doing right now in the NFL. That's what's keeping him good at this age right now. You have to do that. You have to really dedicate your physical training toward your sport when you get, closing in on 40 years old, like a Brady, like a Zdeno Chara. So that is what has allowed I think Chara to really continue to be a good defenseman in this league. Yeah, he's going to have the odd tough night, the odd tough moment, but he's still been pretty darn solid once again this year for the Boston Bruins. And then even on their blue line, you see Matt Grzelcyk as of late scoring assists too. And this is a defensive defenseman. He's known for just being a stay-at-home guy, and he's even contributing here for the Bruins in terms of offense from the back end. So really, there's nothing not to like right now with the Bruins. We'll see if they can continue it tonight. It's been a terrific run. Clearly a player now in the Eastern Conference. Very interesting to see what Don Sweeney, the GM of this team, ends up doing at the trade deadline here. Does he tinker? Does he add a piece? We'll have to wait and see. But Boston certainly on a tremendous extended run. I mean, going back to the last couple months now with how well they've played. Ottawa, Toronto, 59-60. Battle of Ontario here. We've got no line. We've got all of a sudden this Ottawa Senators team finding ways to win hockey games. They've not done it pretty. They've gotten a little fortuitous. They've gotten good saves at the right time. They've capitalized on opportunities, but yet here they are, on a little bit of a win streak, feeling good about themselves. Going into Toronto to take on this Leafs team. Personally, with this game, Toronto's always had a little bit of a tough time with Ottawa. I mean, this has always been not an easy game for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's likely not going to be an easy game for them tonight again, taking on this Sens team. So, for me, at least, it's a little bit tricky to back Toronto. They'll still be laying a sizable price, that, in this game against Ottawa. So, to me, it's probably a game I'm not going to get involved with. I think the other shoe is going to drop at some point for Ottawa. They still spend too much time in their own zone. They've been able to survive it these last few games, win in spite of it. But eventually, when you're getting hemmed in constantly and consistently, and not able to clear pucks out of the zone when you get that opportunity and you get the puck on your stick, that's going to eventually come back and haunt you and result in the puck ending up in the back of your net. So I think that's something like Ottawa's won games, give them credit for it. They've found ways to win, but they've also been outplayed in a lot of these games at times for extended stretches, and they've just been able to survive and capitalize on opportunities they've had. You can win a few games in a row doing that, and they have, but at some point, it's not something that you can sustain for an extended period of time. So I want to back Toronto in this game, but they've always been given a tough game by this Ottawa team, and they're probably going to be priced pretty richly in this game. So this is a game clearly I'm not going to be involved with tonight on the card. We were talking about this before the show, Dana and I. It's not our favorite Saturday card here by any stretch, but this is one of those games that, didn't really appeal to me from the onset. Toronto should win, but if we always bet the team that should win, we wouldn't be doing too well betting on the NHL. So for me, it's a game I'm not going to be involved with here. Philly, Arizona, 61-62. Philadelphia laying -130 to -135 in this game. The total 5.5, shaded to the under. How about the comeback by the Arizona Coyotes against the Minnesota Wild on Thursday? What were they down 3-1 in that hockey game? They come back, rally from behind. They tie the game in the last minute. Clayton Keller with a absolute bullet of a shot into the top corner to beat Devin Dubnyk in overtime, and Arizona 4-3. Can you imagine if you bet Arizona in-game live when they were down 3-1? Could you imagine what that price was? If you had the balls to do it, if you had the foresight to do it, kudos to you, but that would have been one hell of an epic payout there if you had the guts to take Arizona down 3-1 in that game. And of course, they come back and win 4-3. Tremendous win for the Arizona Coyotes, no question. Before that, they only lost 4-3 in Winnipeg. So, it's been a competitive week for this Arizona team. They got the doors blown off them by LA last weekend, but 2 games this week they can actually hold their head up high and be proud of. You only lose by 1 to Winnipeg. You come back and beat Minnesota in Minnesota where it's tough to win. That's impressive from Arizona, no question. However, now we're talking about an Arizona team that you're going to ask me, can they win the 2 games in a row? I can't even remember the last time this team won 2 games in a row. I honestly can't. I mean, that's how long ago it was. I think it was back on that road trip they took into Eastern Canada back in November, December. It's the last time that team won 2 games in a row. It's been a while. I don't know if I trust them to do it here. This is an Arizona. When you're a bottom feeder team off a win like that, I don't know if I trust you to win the next game. I really don't. I mean, you treat wins like that, like what they had against Minnesota, like they won a Super Bowl or they won a World Series or something. I mean, that when you pull off that kind of win, because that is kind of like your Super Bowl, a win like that. You're not going anywhere. You're a doormat in the league. And sometimes it's not always easy to focus, bounce back, and be ready to play that way again in the next game. That's going to be the issue, without a doubt, here for the Arizona Coyotes. I just don't know if I flat out trust them to win for me in a second straight game. So that's the problem with trying to back them here in this game. Philadelphia, they beat Montreal last time out 5-3. They're starting a road trip here out in Arizona tonight. So first game of a road trip usually indicates focus from a hockey team. I expect to see that from the Philadelphia Flyers in this game. It's funny, I believe and by the way, Andrew McGinnis, who's not here, he did send me an email saying he wouldn't be here. Also sent me his plays. He likes the over in the Montreal-Nashville game. I wanted to throw that out, over 5.5 Montreal-Nashville. And he likes the side and the total in this game, and I really can't argue with either one for him. He's on Philly and the over in this game. Wouldn't really argue with either one. In fact, if I were to look at this game, I'd look at the exact same 2 things. Philadelphia laying the chalk on the road here, about -130. Again, you got Philadelphia playing good again, starting to roll again, and that's when you want to back Philly. They're a very streaky team. You don't want any part of them when they're losing 5 or 6 in a row, but when they're stringing wins together like they are right now, that's the time you want to back Philly. So Andrew likes Philly and over. I kind of like Philly and over as well. Certainly, if I'm betting this side or total, I'm looking at Flyers -130. Still the better of these 2 teams. I don't trust Arizona to win 2 in a row off that magnificent comeback win against Minnesota. I do think it's got a chance to be higher scoring. I think Philadelphia can dent this Arizona team that defensively, what have they given up? They gave up 6 to LA. They gave up 4 to Winnipeg. They gave up 3 to Minnesota. Not exactly playing great shutdown hockey right now, Arizona. So Flyers and over definitely does make sense for me here in this game. What makes sense to Dana in this game? Because he's involved with the Flyers and Coyotes tonight. Dana, can they win 2 in a row, Arizona? Because Lord knows that's something they haven't done a whole lot of this year.
No, that's my in-depth analysis. Yeah, I don't know how you could ever go into this game and feel like the Flyers aren't going to give you their best effort. I mean, they just are not in a spot to have a letdown. I mean, I always look at these spots, especially when it comes to be later in the season, and I remember back to the Tampa Bay Lightning last year, that despite the fact that they were battling the lack of having Steven Stamkos available to them, I always remember how they had the Arizona Coyotes at Amalie Arena very late in the season and lost that game and basically prevented themselves from going into the postseason. And if I'm Dave Haxtell, I mean, these are the things that I'm having conversations with my team about, before the game, and say, look, we know that we have 2 games in 24 hours. Because don't forget, there's an early start in Vegas tomorrow. In Vegas, where I am, I'll be at the game, by the way. And so, the first game of the road trip is huge. And I think there is going to be a focus knowing that this is the game of the 2 that you are more likely to win. And this is an opportunity for them to go into this game tomorrow feeling good about themselves. And I don't think there's going to be a letdown situation. And when you look at these games, you have to say, okay, well, Philadelphia clearly on paper is the better of the 2 teams. And the only way they're going to lose is if they don't come to prepared to play. Even though Arizona's horrific, they're still a National Hockey League team, and this is a Flyers team that's still a point back of. There was still a point back of New Jersey for the 3rd spot in the Metro. So how could you possibly have a letdown if you're a potential playoff team? Like I said before, the Flyers are going to play the 2 games in a 24-hour period of time. This is going to be the game that they're going to be most focused for, because I don't think they're going to beat Vegas by Vegas tomorrow as well. This is also, guys, the big part about this is that we might forget. And Arizona's hardly in this spot, but this is also a revenge spot for the Coyotes. It hardly ever they get the better of the revenge spot, but this is a revenge spot for the Flyers. And of course, early on in the season, they dropped a game to the Coyotes. In fact, if we remember back, this was the Coyotes' first win of the season after dropping their first 11 games. And I think that certainly is something that Dave Haxtell's team would circle on the calendar. The Coyotes, I mean, look, you got a team that scored the fewest goals in the National Hockey League. They've given up the most goals in the NHL. I don't know how you could possibly look at the Coyotes, even though they're at home, and say, I want to back them financially. And I don't really know how you can do that any night. So this is a decent price for me. I think Philadelphia is going to be more than focused to take out Arizona, knowing that tomorrow night's going to be tougher.
Yeah, between November 22nd and now, they've won 2 games in a row 1 time, and that was at St. Louis, and then a home win against the Islanders, and that was in January. That's their one example of being able to win 2 games in a row since mid-November. So that's basically what you're betting on if you like Arizona here in this game. And you're right, Arizona's won 4 straight against Philly. Unbelievable. 4 straight head-to-head meetings Arizona has beaten Philadelphia. So believe it or not, if you're playing series history, Arizona says, hey, they've had the better of this team. But, I just think that Philly does get them tonight. I do. I like that. I think it's a higher scoring game as well. That over 5.5 makes a lot of sense. And you look at the series history, it's been high scoring as well. 4-3, 5-4, 4-3 each of the last 3 games between the Flyers and Coyotes. So I'm going to go on those same 2. Philadelphia minus 130 over 5.5. I think that's a side and total. It's got a good chance, I think, to go 2-0. With the side and the total there in that Flyers-Coyotes game. Colorado, Carolina, the next game, 63-64. Carolina minus 155, home favorite, total 5.5, shaded to the under. This is an impossible handicap for me because Carolina's never a team I'm going to lay more than minus 150 with. Never, ever, ever, ever. I know they beat Vancouver last night 4-1, but there was no Brock Besser for the Vancouver Canucks, and that's a guy that's accounted for 40%? I believe I remember reading that 40% of Vancouver's offense this year. So it's unbelievable just what he's been able to do for the Canucks. You take him out and you see what you get. 1 goal last night in a loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. So you got Carolina, no travel, obviously. It's back-to-back home games for them as they take on this Colorado team. Colorado, if I had to, I'd lean ever so slightly to Colorado. They're off just such a bad performance the other night against St. Louis, 6-1. The Blues just railroaded them, dominated them start to finish. They got out to a quick start in that game and never looked back. So Colorado will be looking to bounce back. But this Colorado team just in general has not looked right. has not played well. They're a long ways away from that team that won, 10 in a row. And Nathan McKinnon injury has hurt them. Mikko Rantanen's been banged up. There's all kinds of injury issues starting to percolate now with this Colorado team that's really hurt them in terms of their performance in recent games. So for me in this game, it's just this price is to me a little bit outrageous on Carolina. Especially considering their one win in recent games was against a Vancouver team without clearly their best option offensively last night. This is not a price I have any interest in with Carolina. So I'm going to lean to Colorado here off a bad performance that maybe they show up and give you something here tonight, especially they're going to be the rested team, the fresher team, having not played last night, whereas Carolina did. So I will lean Colorado, but I don't think I'm going to end up betting it here, plus 135. Just price is good, but I just don't know if I trust Colorado. They're just a really banged up team struggling with their own confidence right now. Chicago, Minnesota, 65-66, your rotation number. Minnesota, minus 155, home favorite in this game. The total 5.5, shaded to the under. Chicago, still just in an incredible funk right now. They dropped, of course, that home series Saturday, and then again, Tuesday they played Calgary back-to-back games, didn't win either game. They lose to Dallas 4-2 on Thursday night, which was a play of mine on the Thursday show. Dallas Stars get the job done for me against Chicago in that one. I don't know. I can't play Chicago right now. I just can't. I mean, it's a team that's, you see them offensively. There's not a lot to write home about. If Patrick Kane's not scoring, if Alex DeBrincat isn't scoring, I don't know who else is right now for the Chicago Blackhawks. It's been tough. Taves finally got a goal the other night, which you need more from Taves a little bit offensively. I mean, he's not exactly been a consistent offensive performer this year, and that's not necessarily his shining role. I mean, he's an all-around two-way hockey player. He always has been. That's what he's made his career on. He's got the leadership qualities. He can penalty kill. He's a good face-off guy. I mean, he does all the little things, the intangibles. And that's why you love having a Jonathan Taves on your team. But it certainly wouldn't hurt the Chicago Blackhawks cause for him to be a little bit more involved in the team's offensive capabilities, because, again, they've scored 2 goals or less in 3 of their last 4 games, all of them being losses. So it's a team now that's lost 4 straight, not playing great hockey. You got to believe Minnesota's feeling a little bit red-faced, a little bit, I'll be honest, a little bit kind of embarrassed, to be honest, that they had a 3-1 third period lead at home against the Arizona Coyotes on Thursday night, could not hold the lead, end up losing that game 4-3. That's got to be something that sticks in the craw, I guess you could say, of Bruce Boudreau and his hockey team going into this game tonight. Jonas Brodin is also a key injury for this team on the blue line, out with a hand injury indefinitely. But Minnesota's off a lot. Minnesota's actually been very good off a loss as of lately. It's been a while since they've dropped 2 games in a row. They've bounced back from each of their last 3 losses with victories in their next game. You probably have to give them an edge here. They are at home. They do have a good home record this year of 18-9 overall on the season. After that should probably slap some sense into you, I guess you could say, if and nothing else, that a loss like that against the Arizona Coyotes in their last game. So I would expect good things from Minnesota tonight, a positive effort after that kind of loss. And let's be honest, Chicago's got to keep this game tight. I mean, they got to be a team that keeps this game lower scoring and be able to get the job done. We'll see if they're able to do that. But Minnesota, offensively has played very, very well as of late. No question about that. You look at Minnesota last couple of games, they've scored 9 goals total, 6-2 win against St. Louis. They scored 3 against Arizona. They had a 5 spot against Vegas. They scored 3 against Columbus, 3 against Pittsburgh, 3 against Ottawa, 5 against Tampa Bay. So offensively, this team's perking up, and they should perk up because they've got pretty much everybody healthy now up front. They dealt with a ton of injuries earlier in the season, which kind of hampered this team just a little bit, but they got everyone up front back healthy again. They've got Nino Niederreiter's finally staying healthy. That's huge. Zach Parise now has been back for a while. That's helped. Granlund, Zucker have been in the lineup now consistently, and they continue to produce for this Minnesota Wild team. Eric Stahl even has had a very good season for Minnesota. So definitely they're starting to get their offense in gear, and that's going to be the concern here for Chicago. If they fall behind, are they going to be able to find the goal scoring to get the job done here in this game? Chicago did mention trying to play faster and play, just shoot from anywhere type of mentality. Joe Quenneville had a nice quote about that yesterday, saying we're got to shoot from anywhere. We got to play a little bit faster. We'll see if that results in anything. So it actually has me looking at the over in this game, 5.5, because I think Minnesota going to be able to score a bunch tonight against either Forsberg or Glass. It doesn't matter to me who's in net. You're not going to get an option there that to me is worthy of being a consistent goaltender in the NHL night in, night out. So I'm going to actually look at over 5.5 in this game. I think Minnesota probably will do more of the damage than Chicago, but Chicago is going to try to, shoot from anywhere mentality. And obviously for Arizona, that worked pretty well for them the other night against this Minnesota team. So over 5.5, I am going to take a shot with that. Again, it's not a play I love by any stretch, but I'll go over 5.5 here, Chicago, Minnesota. Again, if Chicago's going to try to play at a little bit of a quicker pace, certainly should benefit over bettors in this game. So I'll go over 5.5 with the Blackhawks and Wild. Edmonton, San Jose to wrap up the card, 67-68. No line here. Not much of an opinion either. I mean, San Jose at home, coming off the loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. Incredible job by Vegas. And I said this on Twitter. Vegas, 5th road game in 8 nights. And your 5th road game in 8 nights in 3 different time zones during that span. No problem whatsoever. We'll still get the job done. No excuses. We're still better than San Jose, and we're going to win that damn game. And sure enough, they did. They are better than San Jose. I said that before that game. They're still a better hockey team. I know the spot stinks for them, but they overcame that because, quite frankly, they're a better hockey team than San Jose, and they proved it the other night. And again, their speed, I said it was going to be an issue for San Jose. Their speed, races to loose pucks, and boy, it drove the Sharks crazy. Those kind of situations the other night against the Vegas Golden Knights. Again, the Shark Tank's not that haunted house for opposing teams like it used to be. You can win there in that building. To me, San Jose is a good, solid notch down from where they've been in the past. Edmonton, though, they had a nice little run going there. I guess the high point of that run was the Connor McDavid 4-goal performance against Tampa Bay, but they've come crashing back down again the last couple of games for the Oilers. Lost last night to the Anaheim Ducks, lose prior to that against the Kings. So all of a sudden now they hit the California road swing here, and it's not been pretty. Oilers back to their losing ways, and that's exactly why I have a hard time. And I'm trying to talk a friend of mine, Cam Stewart. You may know who he is. He does shows with Gabe Morency all the time. I'm trying to talk him out of don't bet Edmonton to win the Stanley Cup at whatever 35-1. They're not even going to make the playoffs. Now I know you're looking for value on a team that's disappointed all season long, but don't do it. Keep the cash in your pocket. Save the money for chicken wings because I know you love those things. Save the money for chicken wings and at the Shoeless Joe's. You'll do better using your money for that than putting a dopey Edmonton futures ticket in there right now. Something that not going to happen as far as I'm concerned. This team just is incapable of stringing together that 8 out of 10, 9 out of 12 type of winning streak that they need to even give themselves a puncher's chance of getting back in the Western Conference playoff chase. So I'm done believing in this Edmonton team right now. Again, they had a nice little thing going. They hit the road, and now all of a sudden the losses start to pile up and start to mount again. So tough game. I mean, I'm not in love with San Jose. It's bet against versus bet against for me, so it's a game I'll be leaving alone here. But this is the nightcap. It's the Hockey Night in Canada game, Oilers and Sharks, so people will be tuning in. Wish I could give you more than that, but just not a fan of either of these two teams right now, Oilers or Sharks, so makes it tough to make a strong case, at least for me, to bet on either one of them at this point in time. All right, that's going to wrap up the show. Only 9 games on this slate, which is a little bit of a lighter slate than normal for Saturday. We usually get 12 games, 13 even sometimes on a Saturday. Just 9 games tonight, but we've got through them all. It's time for best bets, as always, to wrap up the Saturday show. Alex and Andrew both have sent me best bets, so I'll get to theirs in a minute. But first, we'll go to Dana and hear what his best bet is for this Saturday card. Dana, what do you like most?
Well, it's easily has to be the Montreal or the Nashville Predators over Montreal. You're getting a decent price, minus $1.38, $1.40. I think it's $1.38 at Pinnacle right now. They're clearly the better of the two teams. I think PK Subban's going to have a huge game tonight. I think they're going to have an inspired effort on their blue line. I think the Yossi pairing is going to have a big night. I would expect their D-core to have at least 3 to 4 points against Montreal. There's nothing, and especially Montreal can't stand playing the Central Division. They just, no matter who they play in the Central, they look lethargic, they look slow, and I think Nashville's going to expose them tonight. Again, don't love the card. But there certainly is a talent gap between these two teams. So I have no problem laying $1.40 with Nashville at Montreal tonight.
All right, there we go. Nashville minus 140, best bet for Dana Lane. Best bet for Andrew is actually going to be a first period bet in that Nashville-Montreal game. He's going to go over 1.5 in the first period. And you know what? That makes a little bit of sense to me. I think Nashville really comes out of this gate strong tonight, off 2 losses. They could easily, I could see 2-0 Nashville after the first period. Definitely could see that. Or even, even Montreal squeaks one by 1-1 could happen, but over 1.5, especially because I think you're going to get that kind of aggressive type of start from Nashville. I don't think it's going to be a game where they're going to want or plan on starting sluggish off 2 straight losses against Toronto and Ottawa. So for Andrew, his best bet on the Saturday card is over 1.5 first period between the Nashville Predators and the Montreal Canadiens. Let's see, Alex B. Smith, he sent me his best bet as well. It is Hawks Wild over 5.5 in that game, Chicago, Minnesota. So there you go for Alex. Hawks Wild over 5.5 minus 105. That's his best bet for the Saturday card. Mine is going to be daring the Arizona Coyotes to win 2 straight games. I don't believe they can. Philadelphia is the better of these 2 teams. Minus 130. Minus 130. I was going to say there's some 35s that's starting to move toward the Flyers side a little bit, but Philadelphia minus 130 is out there at Heritage Sports. Best price available on the Flyers right now, and that's the one I'm going to recommend. So we'll go Philadelphia minus 130 against Arizona. That'll be my best bet for the Saturday card. And that's going to wrap up the show, and that's going to wrap up the week here on the NHL Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, especially on this Saturday. It's the weekend. Everybody, gets the day off work. If you're working the regular Monday to Friday gig, and you end up maybe sometimes wanting to sleep in on a Saturday, but a lot of you just choose not to and decide to join us live for the Ice Guys instead, and we really do appreciate that. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. Remember, I'm not done yet for the day, actually. We got more coming up with me, 11 a.m. with the big man on campus, college basketball closing line show, breaking down this huge, massive college basketball card on tap for this Saturday. Ice Guys will be back Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully, Andrew and Alex are back with us as well on Tuesday morning for our next show, 9 a.m. Eastern. Check us out then. For Dana Lane, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Saturday card. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you again.